Frontline Chat with Harry Tanguy and Dave Wardell.
Beautiful. There is Finn, if ever I recognise one, looking from the Kent area, I'd say, with a certain police open day, open to friends and family. How are you, buddy? You all right? How are the both of you?
Show you around quickly. So we are at, can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I hear you perfectly.
Are live at the Kent Police Open Day. Today's friends and family, and tomorrow it's open to the public somewhere near Maidstone. Finn's dragging me over here because it smells beautiful and he wants to have a wee where all the police dogs are wee. So what could possibly go wrong? You see this, it's closed, it's finished now, but there's still people around. There's still police dogs walking around. What could possibly go wrong? There's Finny.
Fantastic, mate. It's not the place to steal a handbag, is it? I take it.
No, definitely not. We're here with the Thin Blue Paw Foundation and he's had people coming to say hello, and he did a parade around the ring to talk about Finn's law, and yeah, it's just been incredible, absolutely incredible. Kent Police, so welcome. It's been a brilliant day for the charity. Anyway, how are you, mate?
I'm good. I've been down to Newquay for 5 days and then 2 days up here. This is a bit of a routine. You might have heard there's a bit of a national crisis for caring at the moment. So my mum, who's suffering, bless her heart, from a bit of dementia, and my sister has a full-time job who lives with her, was struggling a little bit, as you can imagine. So I've been down there. I'm going to do 5 days every week there and then come back here to sleep in Torquay for 2 days. So let's see what we can do, because there's been absolutely no help through the system whatsoever, apart from very lovely people trying to help, but there's just none out there. So we're just going to have to dig deep ourselves for a bit.
It was headlines, wasn't it? Just
yeah.
About the lack of care. There you go. I told you what could possibly go wrong.
Is Finn? You good boy, Finn.
Finn sees all these. He's heard sirens and gunshot, and there was a helicopter. So he thinks he's now a fully.
He's reminiscing.
And yeah, I don't know what to do. I mean, we can obviously make some noise about social care on here and on your channel, on my channel.
I don't know. Do you know what?
I think they're just struggling, aren't they?
Ultimately, because I said to someone, so is it Brexit? And she said, this main organizer said, no, don't think it is. I think it's since the hotels opened, they've all become hotel receptionists. It was her comments. But really lovely people trying to help. But yeah, it's a bit of a crisis at the moment. So yeah, I'll be doing that. Ideal situation for me at the moment, so that I can help a little bit where I can for the next 2 or 3 months until we get settled and see how things are. But yeah, so in other news, it's a lovely part of the world to hang around in. Newquay, it's absolutely gorgeous. So I'm around the Porth, Lusty Glaze area, so it's stunningly beautiful. What have you been up to generally, apart from raising money for Thin Blue Paw? Oh, look at that shot. I've got to bring you, that is lovely. Yes, Finn. Yeah, he's a good boy, aren't you? Look at that. He's such a handsome lad. And the dog's not bad either, mate, I tell you. But
he's door in public all day. He's been a bit of a star, as all the dogs here have been. The show they put on is just magical. It's absolutely, and it really does captivate the audience here. They love seeing the police dogs. Tomorrow's another beautiful day here. It's open to the public. There's going to be thousands of people. It's going to be absolutely amazing. And the guys here have been fantastic, and they're getting the message out about how incredible their dogs are, and of course the charity here to look after them when they retire. They've got a couple of retirees this weekend, so we've been meeting them and having our picture taken with them, because of course the Thin Blue Paw will be looking after their dogs in retirement. What are you doing, Finn?
Exactly. Have you noticed the difference with Finn? How he's like, because he seems really perked up there. He's loving it. You could tell. Have you noticed? He's thought, yeah, this is what I've been missing. This is good.
Yeah, mate. Yeah. Have you also noticed he's got the same amount of grey hairs around here? We're like
Yeah.
brothers.
Yeah, but I always tease you that you look as though you should have retired 10 years ago anyway. But that was the day you joined, you looked like that as well. So
Half paper round.
look at him. I can't wait to see him again. So, and I'm going to see you again shortly, aren't I? So that should be good.
Honestly, I can't wait. For those of you who don't, the Thin Blue Paw Foundation are having their inaugural awards evening. Is it next week or the week after? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it's the week off.
It'll be
not this week's coming, but the week after that.
That's it. It'll be a fantastic evening where we're able to, the only police dog only award ceremony. We'll be able to celebrate these incredible animals and tell you some stories that, will probably bring some of you to tears. And there's some amazing characters, some amazing handlers, and some incredible dogs to give awards out to. So it should be a fun evening. And it means that Harry and I will be together. I reckon, Harry, at some point during that evening, do it live, probably before we get hideously drunk.
After.
Oh, okay. I might be able to.
I know. I don't care. That means you'll have more free time.
Yeah, good point. So yeah, I think Harry and I should definitely do a little live from the awards evening. So look out for that. So that's not this Tuesday coming. I think it's the Tuesday after. So it should be good.
Yeah, it is. That is correct. I'm just actually checking myself. Absolutely. Because I have said, yeah, it is 14th, Tuesday 14th. Yeah. Looking good. I still don't know the dress though. It's very awkward because he said it's smart, but is that smart? So is that suit or is it DJ or because I'm going to be the only one turning up in a chicken suit. I'm absolutely sure of it.
Harry,
it's one of those.
You're Harry Tanguy, so you can turn up in whatever you want, and people will.
Such a twat. So I'll tell you what, we have got someone coming on this morning who I last met and worked with very regularly on the traffic department, ARVs and traffic side of things. But he was traffic, and he was very much specialist in that, family liaison officers and things like that. So. Very well connected in that. And he said, one of those people who go, I'm going to emigrate to Canada. And you go, yeah. All right, of course you will. And he only went and gone and done it. So, and then he joined the Calgary police over there for quite some time now from that time. So I'm really interested to find out the comparisons, the differences, if there are any, because Calgary, I was just having a quick little checkup, and I think there's population, actually police, there's 1,900 police in Calgary itself. Population, I think, I could have made that up, just under 2 million, I think, if I was, so sort of around Birmingham size, but we'll check on that. So there'll be some interesting jobs going on there. We're going to bring him up in a couple of minutes.
I will ask your friend in a sec, but is Calgary Police, is that different to, what's it called, Mounted Police?
Okay, I can see him in the green room chortling at the moment. So, I think...
Those big hats and ride horses around, don't they, still?
Well, yeah. I tell you what, I suppose it's all about tradition, isn't it? Because there you go.
Hey,
there you go.
That is cool.
It is.
I want that patch.
It is.
Need that patch.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Wicked.
Yeah. I know. That's good, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm presuming he's still in Calgary because I purposely haven't spoken to him very much because I didn't want to. I wanted to get fresh stuff and find out from the beginning.
Unfortunately, my view of Canadian police was that amazing program called Due South. Do you remember that? It was RMP.
Really?
Uniform, and he walked around with a husky. That's my.
Yeah. Oh no, that Due South. Yes, no, I know it. I know it now. Good. Do you remember the theme music?
Oh gosh, no, I can't. I think you must have.
Okay, we'll get it. I don't. Oh, right. Okay. So plenty of messages coming in. Love you, Finn, from Wilford. Whereabout in Kent are you today? As I came from there, I'm in Suffolk to be with my family today. Didn't know you were there, but it's not to the public today, is it? Public tomorrow.
No. All right. Yeah, it's near Maidstone at the police training college, which I think is right next to the headquarters. If you Google it, Kent Police, you'll find all the information you need.
And I was really impressed, actually. They're doing an open day because it takes an awful lot of organisation, and especially over COVID, that took some balls to actually do that.
Police open days in my life, but I've never been to one quite like this. It's absolutely huge. They've had the helicopter come in. They've done police displays. The firearms are here. It's just absolutely incredible.
Great. Are the firearms ARVs entertaining the kids with the crayons and drawing to keep them occupied? Are they? Good. Yeah. That's our role. That is our role. Right.
All sorts of stuff.
Shall we bring him on? Shall we bring on Andy Woodward, my friend and colleague? That I say, it feels like an ion ago. It was 11 years ago, and he was, in the UK police and traffic department, and they moved to Calgary. I just respect a lot of people. That is just going for it, isn't it? So welcome, Andy. How the devil are you, mate?
Well, I'd say good afternoon to you. It's good morning to me, but good afternoon to you.
I can see by his house. He's done all right. I can see by his house. He's all right.
Yeah, but all houses in North America are absolutely massive, aren't they? It's just us that are left in our little pokey little houses. Whereabouts?
Yeah.
Sorry, Andy?
So I am in a town called Okotoks, which is about 40 kilometres from the centre of Calgary. So it's like a suburb, really. It's just outside.
So now you are. Okay, I want to know. Right, you've got to tell us what you're doing now, because I know what you're doing now.
Well, first of all, let's just make sure that Dave's got the letters right. It's the RCMP.
Oh, there we go.
That he was looking for.
Good effort, though.
Yeah, he got 2 of the letters right, so I was quite impressed with that.
2 of the letters, yeah. He's good. That's fantastic. So, before we go back, because I'm really inquisitive how you want to do it. You're probably fed up with the questions of what made you want to go there. But a lot of people apply for these things, but then sort of they not try it. They find reasons why they shouldn't go, and then they're on the side of safety. I mean, that would be very much me. My brother, he emigrated to Norway and became a teacher there. My other one went to France and have lived there far longer than they have in the UK. And I just made it over the Tamar from Cornwall to Devon, basically. So it just shows you how I wouldn't have discovered America for many centuries if I was the explorer. But so tell me what you're doing now, because that's quite interesting, and I'd love to know think something about that, but we'll come back to it.
Right. So I am currently, I've been working in the professional standards, which are internal affairs, for the last 4 years. After 26 years of patrol, I thought to myself, I'm going to flip over to the dark side, as they say, and become a detective in the professional standards. Our detective rank is the same as a sergeant rank.
Oh, wow.
Right. Right. Okay. Yeah. And it's interesting because there are some lovely characters who have worked in professional standards, because I know Brendan Brookshaw, don't you, Andy, who was in UK, and I think he was chief superintendent, and now he's doing PhDs and doctorates and professorships, if I know him well enough. Even though he's retired, but what a character, and how he stuck his neck above the parapet a little bit, backing me up when I hit the online Daily Mail for one of my tweets I did. So, so good skills, good credit to him and all that. And because he said that, everyone else followed him, and it really made my journey a lot more smoother than it could have been. But let's start from the beginning, because how long were you in the UK police force when
19.
I knew you?
19 years.
Oh, right.
Wow, a long time.
Yeah.
Wow.
A long time. And so you did you have family then?
Where, in Canada?
No, in UK. Did you bring the whole family across? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I remember
we all came across.
Yeah. And so was it your decision, or was it partner, wife, or
no?
who?
It was mine. It was my. I would say it was my pipe dream. If I'm honest, Harry, it was when I joined the police. I thought to myself, I wouldn't mind trying this somewhere else, but you've obviously got to pick somewhere that speaks your language for a start. So that kind of narrowed it down.
Well, yeah, but they speak language in Dorset and most of Wales, but you didn't.
Well, pushing it for Wales, in fairness, pushing it, but yeah.
Why Canada?
Well, it was either going to be Canada or Australia, to be fair. And they were the only two main ones that were recruiting. And I suppose if you look at Australia, you're looking at a good 24 hours to get back to the UK.
Yeah.
Canada is 9 hours, so it's pretty kind of in the middle, really. I've been to Canada before, and I liked it, and I thought to myself, yeah, we'll give this a go. And I don't know if
that's a crucial thing.
Can you remember Ed Parry on Traffic?
Yes. Yeah, right. Very well.
So Ed came out here and he spoke to me in the backyard at OTQ and said, "Oh, I'm just off to Calgary to do some testing." I said, "What's that for?" And he said, "Because they're recruiting at the moment." So I quickly kind of went home, got on the old computer, had a look at what they were doing, and I first of all sent them an email because I was 47 at the time, and I thought, I'm not going to fill out this application form. They're going to turn around and say you're too old.
Yeah.
And they came back and said, no, we're recruiting people, and we've got people, certainly experienced officers that have 50 years of age. So yeah, you fit the criteria. So
what was the problem they were having as such?
They just couldn't recruit because the oil fields at the time were booming. So everybody was like chucking in
going where the money was.
Yeah, going north and going to the oil patches.
Yeah.
And they just could not recruit. So they chucked the net out worldwide.
Yeah, our tin mines gave up in Cornwall, haven't they? They've given up a little bit since Poldark days. But the export of pasties hasn't quite kept it up. We've had to join the police and everything as well. But so you made the decision. How long was the process for you to get over there at the time? Is it like a 2-year thing?
Obviously you hit the nail on the head now. About 2 years, I had to come out and do all of my testing. So you come out, you take a provincial exam, and then that's a pass or fail. So you could pay all that money, come out, and then on the first day fail, and that's it.
Yeah.
So bit of pressure, and then I had to do an interview. And again, pass or fail. Then we had to do a fitness test. That's pass or fail. And then the last two are psychological testing, and they do a polygraph as well.
Whoa! They do a polygraph.
I know.
Whoa! Wow. Okay. No stress then.
No stress. So all that was done in a week.
That's crazy.
Otherwise,
so we applied for Gemma and I, my wife and I, we applied for the New Zealand police about 15 years ago, and everything was done in London. So we had to go down to New Zealand House. They did all the fitness tests, all the vetting and everything in the UK, and then you got your yes or no, and then all you had to do was resign from your force. Unfortunately for us, when it came to literally that week, the recession hit here. We lost 50 grand on our house overnight, but no recession hit in New Zealand. So we faced a very different lifestyle, having lost all that money. And then we, like Harry said at the beginning, we sort of then started to look for reasons not to go. But they did everything here. But you took a real big risk going out there with everyone to see if it would work.
I guess if you failed on day one, you'd have just had a nice holiday after that, would you?
That's what it would have been. Absolutely, it would have been that. So, bit of a bummer on the holiday, but
yeah, exactly. I mean, I know this guy when I was in Plymouth, and because there's a lot of stress on the family, because there is that sort of very overused words for anxiety, but real anxiety, I would have thought, because I know somebody who then, lovely guy, emigrated to New Zealand, settled down, joined the police there, passed it, And then his wife left him, so he came back. He actually took his own collar number back. They accepted him back again. I don't know how it messed his pension up, but yeah, so it was like it had never happened. So, but you, my friend, was it we connected to someone in the control room, wasn't it? That you knew then, or is that I can't remember now, but who you were with, Andy, but I can't remember. Too much time has gone by. So you actually got the acceptance. Did you get the letter when you were obviously here? And then how much time did you have before you were ready to go?
Oh, it was quite. So I did my testing in October 2008. Flew back. They did all the backgrounding, and then they told me in January 2009.
Wow.
And then obviously then you got a Surrey house, and they were quite flexible on that. They were like, yeah, absolutely, we understand. You got a Surrey house. You've got to get yourself in order. You have to do all your paperwork. You got to do your medicals. You got to do all your paperwork. So we were ready to go. Probably we got our passports through and got our permanent residency because that's what they gave us.
Yeah,
so it's quite good. We didn't have to go and get all that, so they gave us that. That was through in about September 2009. We sold our house and moved out in November 2009, and then I resigned from Devon and Cornwall on the 29th of January 2010.
Wow.
right. So
Then I started my training in April 2010 in Calgary. And that was a 24-week course.
Ouch.
Right. Really going back to basics. And there was probably about I think there's 5 or 6 of us that were ex-UK cops. And the rest of them were, new recruits, for a better word.
Okay, so they did literally just bump you in with the newbies, the new people. I mean, are the laws drastically different? Because it was whatever, a Commonwealth country, so they would have derived most of their older legislation from ours. Was it massively different?
No, it's not. It's not, Dave. It's the policy and procedures are probably the ones that you really got to get your head around. The actual policing's the same across the world, isn't it?
Yeah.
You apply common sense.
It was almost identical. The Theft Act was almost word for word.
Yeah. So it's there's different things, like we release people on the street. Things like theft for shoplifting. We go down there. We give them what we call a promise to appear or an appearance notice, and we release them. And they have to go and get their fingerprints done at a certain date and a certain time at a certain location. And if they don't, then a warrant goes out for their arrest. And if they don't turn up for court, warrant goes out for their arrest. And so those type of things is something that you kind of got to start wrapping your head around and say, that's different. But that's the way they do it. So you got to kind of go with the flow.
When did they give you a horse? The second week?
we have a mounted unit. We do have a mounted unit. But it's more of a PR exercise really for them than it is.
Right.
They do use them for missing people in, because we got lots of parks within Calgary, and they'll kind of take the horses out and go for a wander.
So it's still, you have the same serious problems that we have in the UK, of course. It's still a serious business. I was having a look through the latest news, and there was something about an 18-year-old being charged with murder against another. Do you have a lot of youth crime there at all as well? Do you have sort of gang crime there?
Huge gang crime, Harry. Huge gang crime.
Okay.
And we're a very multicultural city. So there is a lot of gang crime, and it goes in peaks and troughs. We get a lot of shootings, then we don't get any, and then we go through another spell of a lot of shootings. So it is quite big on that side of it.
And are there certain things? So did you find your training relatively simple, or did you really feel? It sounds like it was a little bit of adjustments, but you're with people who were not used to even talking to strangers, perhaps, in order to get the information you needed, whereas you would have found that quite, or were you able, like, I think I'd probably struggle a little bit because I probably wouldn't follow the book as such, as far as how you would, what you should say and what thing. You use your own character, don't you? Which probably isn't. They want to give you a basic format beforehand. Did you find it relatively simple?
There were parts that I did, and there were parts of it that I really struggled to wrap my head around. Like our drink drive law over here is completely the opposite of what it is in the UK.
Oh, well, okay.
If you think to yourself back on traffic, Harry, very rarely did we go to court for a drink driver because it was you're either over or you're under.
Yeah.
Let's be fair with it. Over here, there's so many hoops that you've got to jump through before you get into court. And a lot of people will contest drink driving, probably cost them 10 grand in legal fees. But they'll contest it.
It's getting.
There were things that I can remember when we were in classes and the instructor came in from traffic to talk about drink drive. And he said, "Are there any UK cops here?" Like 5 of us or 6 of us put our hands up. He said, "Right, you're probably not going to like this subject." And then he said, "I want to just go one further. Is there any traffic ex-UK?"
Yeah,
there's me. And he said, "You definitely not going to like this subject." And he was honest, to be fair. And it just takes time to wrap your head around it.
It's interesting because we have little spurts of these solicitors, ambulance chasers, so to speak, who do, and it costs 10 grand and they'll guarantee to get you off. And what the public don't realise is if they eventually get the defendant off, because it's quite a procedure, and if you get one little tick box wrong or in the wrong shape of a tick or something, then you've lost it. But you can lose it. Then the taxpayer's paying the 10 grand. It's if the police lose it. But then what's happened is certainly in Devon and Cornwall, we'll say, okay, we'll hit you head on, and we will give them the best prosecutions barrister that we can, and we will hit them in the pocket. And it seems to go off for a little bit then. But interesting subject. It shouldn't be, should it? But money counts. Shouldn't do. But okay, so your traffic side of things that you knew and loved in the UK. Now you were family liaison officer then, weren't you?
Yeah.
If I remember right. Yeah. And you were quite experienced one. 19 years in the police. So traffic. How long were you in the traffic department?
11.
So for 11 years. Okay. And so that's quite a lot to give up, isn't it? It's almost starting from scratch. But did that hit your ego a little bit? Did you have to tell yourself a little bit? Come on,
It didn't. I've got to be honest with you, Callie. And the reason why I say that, Harry, is because I was a constable back in the UK and I came over as a constable.
Yeah.
So we had people come over here that were inspectors in the UK that came and had to start as constables. And I think they struggled.
Their rank. Oh, my God.
Yeah, they won't take you rank for rank, and they make that clear. To be fair, they do make that clear. Right. You will have to give up your rank, come back as a constable, and then work your way back up process.
But then they were looking at the money side of things. Weren't you tempted after 5 years or so to leave the police and go for the oil? Or by that time, the oil had
dried up.
Not so popular. It dried up.
Yeah, it did.
It's not popular, is it? Yeah.
No, it's not.
Everyone's got hybrids or electrics now. But,
yeah, that's true.
That's right. So the first, how long were you on the street as such, on foot patrol or wherever it was, or how did it work for you when you left training?
Right, when you leave training, you go to. So we got 8 districts in Calgary.
Yeah,
1 to 8. So I was posted to 8 district, which is the closest to. It's the closest to where I live, so it's about 20 kilometres away.
Yeah,
and it's a really good district for people to start in, actually, because it's very much residential. There's a little bit of commercial, so you get a little bit of everything there. But you're looking there of probably a population just in that district alone of 225,000 people.
Oh. Okay.
So big, and it's a huge district.
And how did it feel just going on patrol again in such contrast to what you'd done previously? It was taking you back in time because you're being tutored as such, weren't you? And going into your, right, okay, well, you'll deal with this one. You'll deal with this job, That must have been quite surreal. But
it was. It was, and also you've got to bear in mind you're driving on a different side of the road.
Yes.
So I've got to be careful. I can't say the wrong side of the road because obviously it's the right side of the road out here.
Yeah. Go on, Dave. Are all your guys and girls leaving and giving you a bit of a send off? I mean,
You were getting a real salute from the dog handlers in Kent, who have been absolutely wonderful today. I'm just going to ask Andy, what's the gun crime like out there? Because obviously, gun crime does happen here, but the access to guns is much less. Is it? I guess not on a par quite with America, but they must have easier access to guns out there than they do over here. I mean, is it?
Yeah, they do. It's not. I've got to be honest with you. We are obviously quite close to the States. We'll be joined to the States, really. And we don't have anywhere close to what they've got in the States. Nothing at all.
Yeah.
But when we talked about gangs within Calgary, they've all got firearms.
Yeah.
They'll go out and they'll have their shoot-ups now and again.
Yeah.
They'll have their shoot-ups now then. But
bizarrely, New Zealand had much more access to guns. I mean, they are obviously a much smaller population, very similar size country to the UK, but guns were much more common in New Zealand. But their gun crime tends to still be, apart from the occasional horrible shooting, tends to be pretty low still.
Yeah.
I guess
it tends to be like that. I mean, well, you've got Plymouth, haven't you? Keam in Plymouth, where 5 people were murdered before he turned it on himself. And yet Devon and Cornwall have got one of the highest levels of firearms per square mile. And yeah, people say, because of the awful events that have happened there, but there's this sort of knee-jerk reaction to say, well, it's clearly the wrong thing to do. But there's been nothing in Devon and Cornwall for decades and decades. So it is a difficult balance, isn't it? I know you've got America that is so close to Canada, literally on the line, and yet it's so different. It's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, absolutely.
I don't know what the obvious reason is. This is a photograph of. I take it. You're in the. Oh, it's not the bad guy with the gun. Is that a stooge and you're in the car, or this was you training, isn't it?
No, that's training. Yeah, that's sim training. So you would know what a sim round looks like, Harry. And if you get hit by a sim round, that's why we're kind of covered up.
I'm with you. Yeah,
certainly facially wise. But the training, I've got to say, the training is really good out here. They kind of give you a good thorough training, and 24 weeks, and that's kind of split between the classroom and the range and the track, which is where we just seen that picture there.
Are the cops regularly armed out there? They have
everybody, and that's frightening, Harry. That is frightening, knowing that I've got a gun.
Oh, mate, no, you mentioned psychometric tests before, and I thought I only got through that by swapping papers. The poor chap next to me didn't get in, but there's just no way I would have got through. No, all right, that was a joke, okay? But somebody's just mentioned my fingers here because they're saying they're coming up on blue. I have just... Right, this is an issue with either the Suez Canal, where everything got blocked up, or Brexit or COVID or whatever, but you can't buy garden furniture anymore, okay? So I'm deoxidizing... You know, when you say the instructions say you should wear gloves, well, I should have worn gloves. And deoxidizing the rust, respraying them. Somebody's on screen has seen that. So that's that. Right, Stephanie, we did sort of glance on this. Interested in the history of the RCMP. When were they for? Well, we won't test you on that one, Andy, just in case, unless you are a historical fan of that. But more so, and do they use it for that uniform you just had? Is it more for ceremonial or is it normal duties?
The one with the cable hat?
Yeah.
So that one there would have been, we have you heard of the Calgary Stampede?
Yes.
Right. So the biggest show in the world, Earth show in the world. So that one there would have been when the Calgary Stampede was on. So our officers, most of our officers will wear cowboy hats. And certainly if you're working at the ground, then they will give you a cowboy hat and you'll have a cowboy hat for good then.
So it's really important psychologically, because if you see this helmet here, right, it is about height and official. You are the, office, you've taken up the office of constable and things. And it is and we did a bit of an experiment, actually, crewmate. Remember Mike Brown? Andy, Mike Browners. But he was I don't know, ARV traffic guy, and I was crewed with him, and we did a day or half a day of stop checks, not wearing hats, and it's not entirely scientific, and I had a small group, but we definitely found a few more yesers, very more sort of polite, more reserved with the hat being worn as to the reaction, and a few more mates and all right, mate, if you weren't wearing your hat. We just found that personally, because they do. It is the officer of constable in the UK, of course, where the office of constable rather. He's just left a bit. Hopefully, he'll be back soon. So I'm all for hats. More hats, the better, eh? That's why I'm slightly nervous about little baseball hats and things.
I'm a dog handler. I wear a baseball cap because it suits what I do. And actually, the Kent cops here, they've done their best to wear hats today, the dog handlers, but it just doesn't suit what we do. Running around, the first thing...
No, it wouldn't.
Whether it be, a custodian, which is the big one behind Harry, or the flat cap, which is the one next to Harry. That's it. Well done, Harry. Well modelled. It doesn't matter what you wear. It's only really a baseball bat. You've got baseball cap. You've got half a chance of keeping on your head. Anything else will just disappear. I was going to ask he's vanished about cars, because clearly when it comes to cars, my American cop friends, the cars they drive, I think, are way better than the cars we drive. But actually all it is they've got thumping great V8s and V6s in them, and they sound much better. So whether they're actually any better is another point.
I took a Texan when we had the Volvo S60s, very nippy cars. They were manual gearboxes, and I got a shout with this Texan, and he said, how come you got these manual gearboxes and stuff? I said, it's just the automatics then were sort of changing gear halfway around a bend, and it was unsettling the car. They don't have bends in Texas, and and we had a shout. It was probably a 30-mile shout across country. And I remember in single line traffic with grass in the middle of the road, and he's holding the handle there, and he's going, happy, happy, happy. So the car was just like, but it's different roads, isn't it?
Every road in America, I don't know if it's the same in Canada, is like 50 lanes wide. So it's straight. Doing the media, there isn't. They don't have the same sort of country lanes and, like you say, cross-country transitions that we have to do. So it must be very different.
I remember in LA, I drove on a 7-lane one. Yeah, 7 lanes in each direction. And it was like, just close your eyes for most of it. It was fine. Just go with it. Yeah, I don't know, Andy, hopefully we'll click the button again and it'll come back to us. The link that we gave him will come back to us. It is. Yeah, the caps, totally, because... there was it's usually an inspector who's like trying to instill some authority in things, and he said to the collision investigation unit, we want you to wear your caps, and of course they're the most, they're under vehicles, they're in the wet, cold, dark, all the roads cordoned off, there's no one to see them, and it was just ridiculous, so basically they get their hat, they stick it on the tarmac, and they get on with their stuff as they're doing this, vehicle examiners as well. And
if you look at any old footage on YouTube of British cops, and certainly British traffic cops, but any cops 50s, 60s, 70s, they had to wear flat caps, didn't they? And I remember seeing footage, I think they were driving a Jaguar, which didn't have a particularly high roof line anyway, and literally their hats it's pushing down because the roof is so low, but they've got to wear their flat caps. I mean, I'm not quite strict about it as you, but I do think we are a professional organisation and we do need to look smart, but sometimes there's the ridiculous.
See, these are good ones though, aren't they? This is Long Beach, this hat.
That is very cool.
Yeah, this is good. I love all that sort of.
If anybody wants
octagon,
any American police patches or caps, I've got some catching up to do with Harry.
yeah. I'm just going to say, try the link again, mate, because we've lost him. Canadian Wi-Fi isn't up to it.
Yeah, a friend of ours did give me their father's deputy sheriff's badge, which Harry will have seen them because he's been out in America. And he may have one, but their badges, which we made one of Finn. Their badges are wonderful. They are just an thing of a real solid thing. And we would give them one of those. I must be pancake. I do like. Yeah.
We're a bit rubbish in this country, aren't we? I tell you what I got recently, because I was on the G7. Did I mention I was on the G7? We don't do enough of this. There we go. And this was the Cornish G7 for those involved. And I love the inscription on it: "Policing Summit on the Sand."
Wicked. Is that a challenge coin?
And it is
spare. You should have got a spare. I would have done you a swap for one of Finn's.
You can buy them, mate. You can buy them. It's part of the charity thing. If they're still available, have a look. 10 quid. Yeah, 10 quid for that. Nice little thing. Nice to have a memory thing of that. So that's good. I like all that stuff, but in fairness, it does just collect dust on the shelf. We're terrible. Devon and Cornwall, you're terrible at doing these challenge coins and things. We need to get them sorted, because they used to have those really ropey old shields that stuck on. You go into an old station and you've got these shields from all these forces, and they're just so impractical. And the coins are so cheap to produce, and are really, the designs can be beautiful.
I looked into the history of challenge coins, and it's an American military thing, and it was a way of showing respect and showing that you'd been around and met other people. And the history behind challenge coins is absolutely fantastic. It's not massive in this country, but it is starting to build. I say Finn's got one on his website, and the Thin Blue Paw have got one on their website, and they've actually sold pretty well today. So there are some collectors, but you guys Google challenge coins and you'll see some of them are so cool. Actually, some of them are so rare that they can fetch incredible amounts of money. And as I say, they're massive in America, like police patches as well. Police patches are absolutely huge in America. I've got a few. If anybody wants to send me any, thank you very much.
Hey, and he enters the room. We better stop slagging him off now. He's come back. So, Andy, welcome. How are you, mate?
I just had to run upstairs, put $1 in the meter. That's all.
Times are hard. It's usually because your son has just gone on they're playing some sort of game to 12 in a team, and it saps every piece of Wi-Fi out of the system. But you're on 5G over there, aren't you, Dave? I think.
Yeah, the build here in Kent. We've got 5G. We're doing very well. We were talking about bits, Andy, while you were away. Some things can't be repeated, unfortunately. But we were talking about cars and how I know some American cops and how envious I am of your cars. And but actually, are they any better than the cars that you drove over here, or are they just big wallowy cars? Big lumps in them.
Well, we've changed completely now. We went from Crown Vics, which were predominantly the North American police vehicle, to be honest with you. Yep. And they are rear wheel drive. So in the snow, they were no good. So God knows how they managed for so many years. We've now changed. We've gone to the Explorers predominantly. And we do have some F-150s, but I don't think we're going to keep them.
I mean, that's a big lump of truck, an F-150.
Yeah.
Cracking looking. Yeah.
Arc at you with your... I'm just trying to find what you just described, the old... I've got a photograph of it here. So these were the original Vics or something you said, was it? Is it this one there, Andy?
Yeah.
Okay. I clicked on it and there's suddenly a load of music and stuff for the adverts and things like that. So, because I know we're talking about a Texan that I had along with me. It might be roughly at the same time you were here, Andy, but took on a thing, and he said, "Well, why do you have manuals?" And it was the Volvo S60s we had, and basically I threw him around some bends on the way to Dunkerswell, and he was like, happy. So but you don't have so many, your roads are bigger and wider and longer and perhaps don't need quite so much suspension to get around those bends.
No, not at all. Not at all.
You just need a big wall to hide behind and shoot behind, yeah?
We're lucky we find a bend, to be honest with you.
about your motorways, your motor or freeways or whatever you call them out there. So you mentioned weather just now, Andy. Now, when it comes to weather, Canada can really get some weather.
Yeah.
I take it Calgary really does see some snowfall in the winter. What happens? Because obviously, you remember from when you lived here. Even if someone says the word snow on the weather, everything grinds to a halt. How do you guys cope with it out there?
Business as usual. And to be honest with you, where it's business as usual, it's because the city of Calgary snow clearing is it's like a machine. That's their job. They've got all the gear. They'll clear the roads, and certainly the main arterial routes. The Deerfoot, which is like the M5, which runs straight through the middle. They're out 24/7. To be honest with you, the winter clearing, and then we've got the Stony Trail, which is like the M25 for a better word. It's the orbital around Calgary, and they're just finishing that off now. And again, very little problems on there when there's snow.
Because obviously,
don't get me wrong, the side streets you can't get down, but
right, okay, yeah. I mean,
Harry
likes to remind us every year of his snow patrol that he did on the A30 every year.
Snow Commander, as Nick Knowles says, Snow Commander. You've got to say it like that. I was a Snow Commander. This was Holden Hill, Andy. Do you remember that when that grinds to a halt? Because they actually needed some snow commanders, and there was me, Ollie Taylor, and a couple of others who just knew how to keep this place open. And Nick Knowles took the piss out of me for that. Excuse my language, everyone. But he says it in a Nick Knowles voice as well, doesn't he, Dave?
Yeah, he
snow
does.
Commander.
Guys are kids. We might go 5-6 years without any snow, and then all of a sudden we get a load of it. You guys are guaranteed it, so I guess.
Yeah.
Well, that's why. People do moan about us, but then, okay, do you want us to buy a fleet of snow plows that you use once every 10 years? It's a bit of a compromise. Right, what I want to know, Andy, so you've done a bit of policing and all that, and then you decide, actually, this detective rank. So you've gone up in rank, and you've been up. What was it that attracted you to that? You could obviously some good that you could do in there.
What attracted me to two things, really, to be honest with you, Harry. 26 years of patrol, and you'll know because you did 30 years of patrol. Yeah. And, it does take its toll on you.
Yeah.
And certainly going home from nights and only getting 4 hours sleep and then having to go in the next night and do another night shift. We do 12-hour shifts for a start. So
right.
That was an attraction with that day. Better for family life. And it was just something different. And our professional standards is completely different because we use a management tool that we don't use anywhere else in the service. It's only unique to professional standards. We work under the Police Act. We work under the police regulations. But a huge eye-opener. It was like starting a new job. It really was. You go in there and it's like, oh my God, I've been a cop for 26 years and I don't know what I'm doing. Some people will still say I don't know what I'm doing, but
was it? Oh well, I said I didn't know what I was doing in the end. So what was it that was really surprising to you with that? Was there anything specific there that?
No, it was just the way that the business is done, and the business has to be done that way. Because it really is governed by the Police Act, and each province has their own act. So we run under the Alberta Police Act, and we just have to comply to that. It's no different than the guys on the street have to conform to the criminal code. We have to conform to that. So right. So and you obviously get that a fair bit of satisfaction from that, because I was speaking to a few. People in professional standards here, and you find people shouldn't confuse our IOPC, of which I'm sure there's several very lovely people in there, but the IOPC, as the Independent Office of Police Conduct for everyone, is very different from the local forces professional standards. And I found professional standards generally tended to be very fair. They were officers off the street, and they would deal with things. Sometimes you hear things being referred to the IOPC, and then they said no for local investigation. And there are some stuff that needs to be sorted out. There's when you get,
you've got 1,900 cops in Calgary, you're going to get one or two naughty ones, aren't you? And they need to be weeded out.
And that's the issue. And we're very similar when you talk about, another governing body. We've got ASAP, which is Alberta Serious Incident Response Team. And so if we get something that's a little bit kind of higher than the normal police service regulations, we'll refer that to the Director of Law Enforcement. And he'll come back and say, or she'll come back and say, yeah, you can deal with that in-house, or no, we'll give it to ASAP. And they'll take on that investigation.
Sort of very, very similar. And as Dave was saying, then I would think lots of things run similar. And at the end of the day, it's probably because it works, isn't it? I mean, especially the local investigations are going to find, actually, we need to be more transparent. This is more important. There's going to be more public attention on this. So therefore, we need to step back a bit and let somebody who couldn't even be accused of being influenced be involved.
The expectation from the public, as you know, Harry and Dave, is huge now. And it's, when I first came out here, obviously coming from the UK, where we don't have a tremendous amount of following, a good following of the police, it was different out here, because you go into like Tim Hortons, which is a coffee shop all over Canada, and you go in there and have a coffee, and then somebody will come and tap you on the shoulder and just say, thanks ever so much for the work you're doing, really appreciate it. Here's a voucher for $25. And I'm immediately thinking, is this a professional standards setup for me? Because to see if I'm going to accept this voucher, And
it's just true. I remember at Christmas changing a tyre, and someone said, "Oh, happy Christmas, bottle of wine." I said, "Oh, thank you so much, but do you know, it's just too much trouble." And then some people would say, "Sarge, I've got a box of chocolates, and I've put the application in to see if I can keep them." And I said, "Well, eat the chocolates, and if you're not allowed to keep them, I will replace them, because this is ridiculous." so I will.
I've contact with our founders quite a lot, and actually, they're incredible. Some of them have now, friends of mine have now transferred in as well, and they're not as prickly as we once thought they were. And like you say, they are just normal serving cops and civilians, the same as us. And actually, if they can help you out of a corner, if they can put you on the straight and narrow, then they will. Of course, if you stuff up, and you stuff up monumentally, then knocking on your door. But actually, they're there for your interest. They're there to protect the force's reputation and your reputation as well. I mean, I can't fault our PSD especially over the last 4 years. They've been absolutely incredible. But I remember during my service before then, we had all of our bites used to go to PSD. That was our open, how open we were about our dog bites. And then one went up to the IOPC, and actually PSD were fantastic. They said, "Don't worry about it, Dave. They're going to come and talk to you and make sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed." And they were absolutely wonderful.
No,
and I think honestly, Dave, at the end of the day, as a detective, I'll sit down with my officers and I'll be brutally honest with them. I'll say to them, this complaint is probably going to go nowhere, so don't lose any sleep over it. Or
no, it's really important to know, because
I can understand why they've made a complaint, but they might not get the answer they're looking for. So just make sure when you return your documents that you kind of answer the question they're asking. Or if there's video, it's kind of we're a little bit stuck here.
But that's really important to know, because I know police officers. People think police officers are just they don't care, whatever. I mean, there's members of my office who were really stressed when they got a complaint, and you'd really have to say, look, as long as there's no utter negligence, maliciousness, dishonesty, I would be saying, mate, it's just your turn. It's your turn. You were there. You went to the job. He would have complained about anybody because he just didn't get the answer he wanted. So it's not what happens; it's how you deal with it, and you'd be fine. And because and ultimately, I remember an interview I had, and I said, "Look, I'm not gonna worry about it. Ask your questions, get them over. Don't mistake it for arrogance. It's just if you had the evidence, if it had happened, I'd be worried he'd had a recorder on him." And it didn't happen. So I know he hasn't. So you haven't got any evidence. So crack on and then get on with policing again. But a lot of people aren't like that. it was after that interview they suggested I go for promotion, incidentally. Genuinely so. So there's a good question here, actually, and it will either be absolutely nothing, because there's lots of American words and things, but is there any, because you've kept your English accent, Andy.
Yeah, but you speak to my daughter, she hasn't.
Oh, really? Yeah,
No.
Is that right? You're all that school influence, and but you are, so you must get quite a few comments about that, or do they think you're Australian or something? Which is
You hit nail on the head. They think I'm Australian or South African.
do they?
So when I was on patrol, and if a complaint came in, they said, "Yeah, the Australian police officer." Why can't it be me then? Because I'm English.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
That's brilliant. But there's no language difficulties, is there, compared to America as such? Or do they say, "What do you mean? What do you mean pavement?" Or whatever,
Sometimes they'll have a little bit of a chuckle, and it's kind of put the garbage out rather than put rubbish out, and sidewalk instead of pavement, and parking lot instead of car park, and But there's about 200 British police officers in our service.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow. Okay,
Yeah.
so they're quite used to it. So that's about 10% then, I think.
Yeah, there's quite a few from Devon and Cornwall.
Wow. Okay. There you go.
Ex-Brit Cop Association, so you can all get together and moan about the Canadians.
No. It's funny you should say that, Dave, actually, because that was kind of muted. When I first joined, I heard people talking about, well, we should have a British Police Officer Association. And it would be like, that is the furthest place I'm going to go to, because I really don't want to be there.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, and I'm not labeling everybody here, but sometimes you've got to kind of embrace where you're working and embrace their cultures, and that's what you come over for. I came over.
Very wise words.
The Canadians. So
there's a lot of people who could take note of those words. And in many backgrounds, in many areas, I think is to do that. If you to take on the cultures of others and not try to make the world your own.
That's a good point. Did you enjoy going out? I mean, obviously, most of you've been out there for a while now, I think, but my kids would settle into an American or Canadian life quite simply because that's all they ever watch on TV is American. Yeah. And then, Justin Bieber's Canadian, all that sort of stuff. My other daughter's favourite actor is a Canadian. And so did you enjoy that? Was it quite tricky settling into the new culture, or was it part of the challenge that you said?
I think it was part of the challenge that you kind of give it to yourself to say, certainly from a class point of view, to do 24 weeks with the Canadians, and I spent a lot of time. I've got some really, really good friends that are Canadian now, and I wouldn't change them for the world.
Yeah.
One of my partners in 8th District was probably what is the best police officer I've ever worked with, and he was never a cop before, but just a phenomenal guy. And he's now left and gone to another agency further on up in Alberta, and we still keep in contact now. We still go and see each other, and we still keep in contact. And
good.
super guy.
Do you road death family liaison type work you did just before I believe the police complaint side of things, and you didn't just stay in Calgary for that, did you? You went all over the place. You went to America teaching it, didn't you? What was that about?
So when I came out here, and this is not Calgary's, this is a policing problem worldwide, is that we don't look at death notification as something we need to train officers with. We look at it in the police service to say everybody can do this, but not everybody can do it. So I set up developed a death notification course for Calgary. I think about 300 officers have gone through that course now. So we've got 300 officers that are volunteers that turn up for my course. It's a 2-day course. Word got around, and then I ended up going to Barbados, of all places.
Someone has to do it, Andy. Someone has to do it.
It was a drag. It really was. And they said to me, look, we've got this opportunity of teaching in the Caribbean. What do you think? I'm like, yeah, I ain't going to think about that. On the next flight. And it was amazing, really, because I had so many people say to me, "Do you need a bag man? I'm sure you need a bag man."
Yeah.
So I went out there with a staff sergeant who was fantastic, and I'd never met him before, and it was like we knew each other for years.
Good.
And then I've been down to the States, been down to San Diego and Florida and Phoenix, did a bit of training down there. So yeah, it's good. So that's really taken off. And then at the end of last year, I kind of gave my last kick of the cat of getting family liaison into our police service, because I've tried for 4 years and no. And eventually I said, yeah, absolutely. So the first family liaison officer course will be running on the 21st of September this year.
Wow.
Oh my God. Congratulations. So are you going to be directly involved with that?
I am going to be the lead trainer. Yeah. I'll develop the course and then I'll be the lead trainer for that. So it's definitely something we need for sure.
Yeah.
And the death notification course has given these people so much more confidence to go out and deal with these people rather than just go in and say somebody's died and walk out again.
Yeah.
Exactly. And because actually, for everyone listening, the real side of why it's so important is because it helps facilitate the investigation as well. You get somebody who is trusted, who is a good quote, I think, is the family liaison officer is the most hated and the most loved person by that individual. They're the one who ruined their life and the ones who then led them through the next set of procedures and was their best friend by doing that sort of thing. But it's important to note that it is part of the investigation as well.
Yeah.
And especially where you have got certain things where people don't trust the police, like the police or whatever, to have that sort of flow of information, isn't it, Andy? As well as just guiding them through, your relatives died out the blue. Who's the coroner's officer? What do they do? What do I do?
Yeah.
When can I do? So many questions. So no, congratulations on that, my friend. Really, really, really impressive. It is 5 o'clock, 5:02. So it's 10 o'clock in Calgary, I believe. So what we're going to do is, if you just stay on for 2 minutes, because Dave, I should think, will be needing to get off soon. Stay on for 2 minutes afterwards. Thank you ever so much, everyone. Really, really appreciate you joining us this week. And we'll see you next week, roughly the same time. Cheers.